Hello and welcome back to the Chromosomatics Wellness Podcast. I want to welcome back all the previous listeners, and for you new listeners, my name is Charles. I'm the owner of Chromosomatics Wellness. I want to thank everybody who's been tuning in, people who subscribed, people who liked, people who shared. Got about 25 subscribers. I don't know if that's good or bad for YouTube for, I don't know, about a month. But we'll see. I'm going to work on some things in terms of better tagging for the videos, and I've gotten some pointers from some pretty big YouTubers out there. So this video, I'm recording this Thanksgiving Eve, so I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving tomorrow. Hopefully, you have all your dishes cooked already, or ready to go. I'm actually going to make a pie right after this broadcast, so I'm still not done for the night. But I wanted to get this in so I could get this posted and published by Friday. So today we're talking about me. I figured, we've been kind of technical, kind of spiritual, getting into some deep stuff in the past couple shows. So I want to kind of bring it back down to earth. And people ask this question all the time, and I said I would speak on it. So this is me, just speaking on the origins of where I come from in terms of this whole spiritual thing. People come into my office and they're not expecting to see me, and they ask, they're like, "How'd you get into this?" And I think I'm probably the only African American male. There aren't many males who are guardians of harmonic eggs anyway. And I think I probably the only African American male who is a guardian, and we call ourselves guardians of these eggs. We don't really call ourselves owners, but I think I'm the only one that in the world that has one. So hopefully, there's many more to come. Many more to come. Um, but with my story, I grew up in Baltimore. I was born to very young teenage parents in Baltimore in the early 70s. My I grew up in West Baltimore, like, so if you ever watch The Wire and shows like that, um, so I grew up all those neighborhoods. I lived all over West Baltimore. Most of those neighborhoods I've lived in, I've seen people get killed on those corners. I have family members, cousins, in their teens who've been killed on those corners. So this show is always hard for me to watch. I think I've only ever been able to watch this like a half an episode of The Wire. Just living through that and being old enough to remember when Baltimore was a different city. In the early, mid, late 70s, totally different city. People took pride in their property. It was a totally different environment back then. Uh, so by me seeing the transition, it's sad to see where it went because I saw it go there. I wasn't born into that. I saw it transition into that. So it gives people our age a different perspective on that. We saw the things that contributed to that. So that's what I was born out of. But I have to say, my first encounter with what one would call consciousness or uh, was when I graduated high school. And a friend of mine's father gave me a uh, a a graduation present, and it was a book by a man named Anthony Browder. The book was called From the Browder Files. This was written in the early '90s, and it's a lot of Egyptology. And for me, just to give a little more understanding of this and how I came to be where I am, a lot of people come from different angles in terms of how they become harmonic egg guardians or even light workers in general. People come from different backgrounds. You'd be surprised at how we all get here, but we get here. So I have a slightly different background, but there's some that's even more different than mine. It's just not the average path to this, but there's many paths, all leading to the same place. So for me, that was the first introduction into what I would call consciousness and esoteric studies and things like that, but mostly from an Egyptology perspective. And that book really outlined how a lot of things in Washington, D.C. are aligned with certain cities in Egypt, certain ancient cities in Egypt as well. So that book really intrigued me, and that led me down the rabbit hole. There was a store here in Baltimore uh, called the Nubian Network. It was on Baltimore Street, sketchy area, but I grew up in that area, so it was wasn't too sketchy for me. I knew people down there, so um, but I used to go down there, and this is when I was in college, so I was kind of getting two educations. I was getting this formal um, academic education, and I was getting this esoteric education at the same time. And I was actually more interested in the esoteric education, but I actually started to also draw the lines or connect the dots between what I was learning in the esoteric area with what I was learning in the academic area. A lot of these things overlapped. Um, so I spent a lot of time studying a lot of academic scholars in the esoteric studies, and just really um, just historic knowledge. Period. Like Dr. Ben, John Henry Clark, Ivan Van Sertima. People like that on the academic side, and then on the more esoteric side, with people like C. Freeman L. Dr. Delbert Blair, Dr. Phil Valentine, Bobby Hemmett, people teaching what some would consider occult esoteric scientists back then. Now it's kind of every day. We call it woke now, but was no concept of that woke thing back then. It was just knowledge. It's what it was. So I came up through that at the same time I was getting my regular academic studies in college. So that made me a little different. I saw the world a little differently at a very young age. So that led me into understanding that there was more than just the 3D world. There were many layers to what we consider reality, from an esoteric standpoint, even from a mythological standpoint. I studied a lot of Joseph Campbell. I would watch him for hours, hours. Amazing. So started to understand the relationship between religion and mythology. Uh, got into Hermeticism, where we study everything because you understand there are nuggets in every different religion, even in different mythologies and systems around the world. Um, they're nuggets in everything. You can stitch them together and get the bigger picture. So never left any stone unturned. Studied as much as I can. Didn't know why. Didn't realize how much this will help me help others years down the road. We're talking 30, 40 years later. You know, um, I'm regurgitating these things that I learned when I was in my 20s. I don't even know how I even remember half of this stuff, but I think it was for a reason. So that's how I got into that knowledge. The other path that brought me into this was music. So I was always into music. I was in every band you could think of. When I was in school, I was in the jazz band, the the orchestra, symphonic orchestra, the marching band, you name it. I was in every band, always into music, and I was always an audiophile. I was always into the quality of music, and even when we were dealing with tapes back in the day, cassette tapes, I was always in getting the best quality. And my father was a DJ, and he got me into DJing. He actually had me out at 13 doing weddings, and I was basically a mobile DJ. He drove, and I would get out and DJ the wedding. Playing records back in those days. That got me into using music as a way to connect with people and seeing what music does to people. Especially at emotional events like weddings and things like that. But that carried over into clubs when I was DJing in clubs. You know, you there's a most DJs are very empathic. They can feel the room, they can feel the people in there. This is how they know what to play, what not to play. They're literally connected. It's a symbiotic relationship going on with the DJ in the crowd, and they know what can move people. You know, they really pay attention. If you ever see a DJ in a club and he's not DJing, he's observing everything. He's observing how people react to certain songs, what people react to certain songs, their tolerance for certain songs, and they may like it, but they may not be able to like it that long. Yeah, we're watching everything in terms of how the body and the spirit, especially when you're looking at dancers and you're playing music for dancers, they're reacting to the music in a totally different way. It's a spiritual thing for them. If you ever talk to any dancers, they'll tell you some stories about some things that happened to them out there on that dance floor. It's they go to other places. You know, it's wild talking to some of them. But you see how music can be a facilitator to the quantum realm to actually take you out of time and space. And you see it all the time. You'll see people with Alzheimer's and they're basically nonverbal, and you'll play a song that they remember from the 30s or the 40s, and they'll just get up and start dancing. It literally transports them to another time where they can actually move their body. And when the music's not on, they just go right back to just kind of being comatose. But the music triggers DNA in them actually that takes them to a different time and place. So I've seen that. So I understood that. So those understandings kind of led me into understanding the harmonic egg and how it worked in terms of sound. The other thing with the harmonic egg and what I use to help people now um, is the color and dealing with color therapy and things like that. So I really wasn't into color therapy. I started dabbling into color therapy probably 2015, something like that. I was dabbling in the color therapy. Um, the biggest thing that really sold me with color therapy is that at the time I had a job. I was working for an big investment firm, right? And but I didn't like the pay, didn't like the culture, and I wanted another job. And a friend of mine told me, said, if you use the color red, because that's the root chakra, that's your stability, um, you know, that's your safety and your security. Said work with the color red, and even if you just take a red crayon and circle it clockwise, your subconscious mind will know what that means, especially with your intention. And he said, but the best ritual to do is make up your own. So I did. I at that time, this is around 2011, the Wii had come out, and the Wii had come out, and I'm a big tennis fan. So I was playing tennis on the Wii, and this isn't the usual tennis with the little Wii characters. This is the tennis where you're playing with Serena Williams and Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer. This is serious tennis. You're really playing uh, almost like real tennis. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to create this player. I'm going to dress him in all red for the root chakra, and I'm just going to kick butt with this guy. He had a big afro, and I'm playing players from all over the world, and I was beating them. I was really good at it. And I end up getting a job, a six-figure offer uh, with a company. This is a large international three-letter company. I'll just leave it at that. At that time, I couldn't tell you how to get a job with them. But when I played the tennis game, the players were playing in like realistic stadiums, and they had the logos of certain companies on the net, on the server shot, the timer clock. These logos were plastered everywhere. So my subconscious mind is taking in these images of these logos, and I end up getting a six-figure offer from one of those companies that were logos in that game. And that blew me away. I'm like, oh my God, maybe there's something to this. So I started to look a little more into color therapy. Ended up on YouTube. I used to look at some of the YouTube color therapy videos as well as singing bowls. I was just into all of that stuff. And then I discovered a woman named Regina Meredith, and she had a show on YouTube. She also has a show on Gaia, on the Gaia Network. But she was interviewing a woman named Gail Lynn. So Gail is the inventor of the harmonic egg. I watched her interview Gail, and Gail had some miraculous stories of how she'd helped people heal themselves. And using this chamber, and that chamber has a sacred geometrical shape. I'll do a whole separate show on the harmonic egg soon, just to get into the science of that and how that works. But when I heard her talk about the geometrical shape, and I understood sacred geometry, um, and how it worked in tandem with the color therapy and the sound therapy, and I was like, "There's nothing else out there like that." A lot of things focus on one or the other. I've never seen anything, even to this day, I've never seen anything that incorporated sacred geometry, color therapy, and sound therapy all at the same time. Three forms of entrainment at the same time. And like I said, I'll do a separate video on the harmonic egg and go into detail of what that all means. But I'd never seen anything like that. And I think the straw that broke the camel's back for me, I kind of bookmarked what I saw with Gay. I'm like, okay, I'm going to remember that. But later it was about 2 years later, 2019. I took my son to Manhattan. My son is a coin collector. He collects rare coins and money and currency, and he knows the value. He resells it and all. He's into that. And he's been in it since he was a kid. He was like 14 years old at this time. So I would always take him wherever he wanted to go for his birthday. If he wanted to go somewhere to get some rare coins, I would take him. Where it didn't matter how far it was. So I took him to Manhattan, and we go into place, and he starts talking to the Jewish guy that owns it, and he's just amazed at what my son knows at his age, and they're just in heaven talking. But I noticed when I walked through the door, there's a bookshelf to my left, and it's full of all of these books on color therapy, color theory, color and advertising, and fairly older books from like the late 50s, early 60s. And I know these books are worth a lot of money. And so I asked the guy, I said, "What are you doing with these books here?" The owner asked, and he said, "Well, the first guy to graduate with a PhD in color therapy from NYU just passed away, and he donated this whole library to me. He's had books all in the back there, shelves of books. I couldn't believe it. So I'm looking at these books, and I know I'm looking at like $1,000 worth of books. These books were not cheap. These were hard to find books. And he said, "Go and grab what you want." I said, "Okay." I grabbed like 5, 6 books, and I said, "Well, how much for these?" And he wants to get back to my son so bad, he just opens up the book and takes a pencil. He didn't charge me any more than $6 for any of his books. No more than $6. He was just like making up numbers. And I'm like, okay, this man just gave me about $1,000 worth of books for like $18. So I'm like, okay, universe, whoever, this is a sign. Okay. So I started to inquire more about the harmonic egg when that happened. Because I'm like, what are the odds of this happening? I'm in Manhattan in a coin shop. This guy has color therapy books. I'm already kind of weighing in my mind, should I inquire more about this egg? I just couldn't get it off my mind. And that made me inquire more and reach out to Gail Lynn, who was the inventor of the harmonic egg. She's the woman that I saw in the interview. I reached out to Gail. Me and Gail kind of hit it off. One thing I liked about her and her selection process is that she kind of, at that time, not anyone could be a guardian. She really kind of vetted you to see what your energy was. You had to have a certain energy about you, like you really wanted to do this because you cared, not because it was just some way to make money, you know. And even the way she commissioned the music, with the intentions, make sure the intention was there for the songs, make sure the artist even had a certain energy about them because she understood that the intention of the musician, the intention of the song itself, all travels in the music and lands in the actual person in the egg. She understood that those intentions would carry in the music, and I really like the fact that she understood that, and I wanted to be a part of that, someone who understood that. So that's what drew me to her. And then I went to South Carolina to actually get in one of the eggs. Um, and shout out to Shimber down in South Carolina. She really treated me well. She taught me a lot about the business side of it, and she still has her service down there today. But Shimba put me in the egg and she asked me to set an intention. And at that time, I didn't know you had to set an intention before you got in the egg. So we set an intention, and my intention was abundance. I didn't know what to do. I was abundance, whatever. And so I got in the egg, and at that time, I had gone there. I like maxed out a couple credit cards to take that trip. I really went out on a limb. And when I got back to the Airbnb, I'd gotten an extra $1,500 on two different cards that I did not ask for. It just showed up. That's never happened to me before or after that. Never seen anything like they just gave me some money that I didn't even ask for. They just upped my limit, $1,500 on two separate cards, same time, two separate cards. Right? So I get back home to Maryland and I did a remote session. I was very skeptical about the remote sessions. I didn't believe they would work. And I did one. I felt the same sensation that I felt on this side of my face when I was physically in the egg. I never understood at that time. I didn't know what that was about, but I did two remote sessions. Felt the same thing. I'm like, okay, something's happening. I don't know what it is. I go to my dentist. I'd had two wisdom teeth on this side removed and a molar down here removed. The wisdom tooth had no space and it hit up against the molar here and cracked it. So I had to have the molar removed, the wisdom tooth removed, and the wisdom tooth above that removed. No work done here, even though I had two wisdom teeth on that side, on the left side, that were impacted, but they didn't bother me, so the dentist didn't bother taking it out. No pain or anything. They just didn't have room. But I could always feel it, especially the one in the upper left. So I go to the dentist, and the dentist is showing me the X-ray from when my wisdom teeth were in. Now he's showing me the one where they're taken out, and I can see where these are missing here. He's like, "Who took the one out on the left, the upper left?" I said, "Nobody. I didn't pay anybody to take it out. I would have felt it. I was awake the whole time." He's like, "Somebody took it out." I'm like, "What do you mean?" So he shows me the X-ray. It's gone. I feel up there. I don't feel anything. I used to be able to feel it. It's smooth, like somebody took it out. And I'm like, "What?" He's looking at me like I got two heads. I'm looking at him like he has two heads. I'm making no connection between this and what was happening in that egg. I told you I kept feeling something on this side of my face when I was in the egg on the left side. So I get in my car and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, oh my God, is that what was happening in the remote sessions? And when I was physically down there, I felt the same thing right in that spot. And I went and talked to a doctor friend of mine, and she told me, she said, well, it's not unusual for the human body to actually be able to reabsorb a tooth. It could do that. And I'm like, yeah, but what would spark that? What would be the catalyst for that? The only catalyst that I could pin down is the fact that I was in this egg and I felt a sensation right in that spot. And that made me start thinking like, can external things be a catalyst for the human body to trigger certain abilities that it wouldn't normally trigger? Like certain latent abilities that the body can do to heal itself that we aren't aware of, or we aren't aware of what stimulus is needed in order to trigger that process. That really got my attention. And that's when I decided, okay, I need to get one of these eggs. So, long story short, $70,000 egg. I have no $70,000 to contribute to this. Um, but it was meant to be. One thing I remember Gail telling me, she said, the egg will pick you. If the egg doesn't want to be with you, the egg won't be with you. I was like, "Oh, okay." But that turned out to be so true. I had so many doors slammed in my face trying to explain to investors and banks. I want to get a 7 foot egg and put it in the office and bring people in to sit in it. And they're like, "What are you talking about?" but I mean, you can imagine that. But I ran into one person and over the phone, and I explained to her what this was. She got it. She understood. She said, my sister-in-law is does Reiki. She would love to have one of these. I'm gonna make sure she gets a loan to get one. She was like, "Well, what do you need?" I said, "I need like 70,000." She said, "I'll give you 100,000." She was so excited, and this woman, they literally loaned me $100,000 to get the egg and set up the office. I just kept knocking on the doors and got the right person, and that's when I knew, okay, this was meant to happen. I made a vow to myself in like my late 40s that when I turned 50, that I would dedicate my life to service to others. And that's exactly what I did. Um, and it turns out, all of these eggs have names. And I asked some of the owners, I said, "Well, how do y'all come up with these names?" And they were like, the egg will name itself. I said, "Okay." So, all right, right. And lo and behold, I was asleep and like 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, I fell asleep on the couch and a YouTube video comes up and this woman's doing this acupressure, and she worked at an integrative medicine unit at University of Maryland, which I didn't even know existed. And she said the name of the technique we use is called Seva. 2 in the morning, and I'm like, that's the name, Seva. I didn't even know what Seva meant. And I said, okay, I got it. That's the name. And when I looked it up, it's a Sanskrit word, ancient Indian word that means selfless service to others. And that's what I vowed to do when I turned 50. And I'm like, that's the name, Seva. So, so a lot of synchronicities that kind of led me here. A lot of things in my life. The DJing, that really helps me help people in a way that only other DJs understand. Most DJs are very empathic. I'm very empathic. I connect to my clients and they know I connect and they can feel me and I feel them. Most DJs are like that. They can feel the crowd. They have that ability. That's their superpower. It really is. They can feel the crowd. They can anticipate them. It's a symbiotic relationship, especially in clubs and big festivals when there's a lot of people. DJs can like weed through those energies and figure out what to play for the right people who will be catalysts for other people to join in and fill the dance floor. They can kind of spot the people who are going to actually influence people the most. And while they're spotting them, all these songs are going through their head. Okay, what am I going to play? What am I going to play to take them here, take them there? I'm doing that when I'm dealing with clients. So some of my DJ friends come and they do sessions and they're like, "Man, you're just DJing because you have a selection of songs. You're connecting to these people. And while you're connecting to them and hearing their life stories, their traumas, you're running all these records through your mind. Like, okay, what track am I going to play for them in the A? What colors I'm going to use?" You're discerning all of that in real time while you're connecting to these people in an empathic way, literally taking in their stories and connecting dots where they can't because they're so in it themselves. um, the DJs realize that. Actually, when I used to DJ in clubs, I used to go to a shaman, and she used to tell me, she used to say, when you come from the club, she said, you're empathic and you're very sticky, which means other people's energy tends to cling on to me. She said, I want you to take a shower and I want you to tell the water to clear these people's energy off of you because the water actually can hold memory and can actually take the memory of those other energies off of you. And that's a whole nother episode. I'm going to do a whole episode on water the technology of water and what water does. And maybe send you guys some references where you can go and research this some more yourself. But water is everything, everything. So we're mostly made of water. Water responds to intention. Even when you clear your crystals, you can run your crystals underwater, but you have to tell the water what to do. You can't just run it underwater. You have to tell the water, clear the crystal, clear the traumas, clear the memories, whatever this crystal is holding, clear it. You have to tell the water to do that. So you're using liquid crystal to clear solid crystal. It's basically what you're doing when you do that. So that's pretty much my story in a nutshell in terms of some of the ingredients that all culminated to get me to where I am right now. And thank God I just remember these things. I don't know why. Well, now I know why. I remember what I remember so that I could do this job. This is what I was meant to do. I know that for a fact. Everything, even the DJ, everything led to this. Everything. So I see my past. I'm DJing in clubs and I'm learning what I'm learning, and I realized it was all for this. It was all for this. All the esoteric studies, studying the occult and just all kinds of stuff. Um, it was all for this. The science, the quantum physics, quantum mechanics, all this stuff. It was for this. It was to have that toolbox to help people. Um, that's what it was for. And I'm proud to take on the job. I love what I do. Um, so that's me, kind of in a nutshell, in terms of how I got here. Um, I could really go into the rabbit hole on different portions of that, but we're already at 33 minutes, so um, I wanted to keep it under 30 minutes, but probably after some editing, it'll probably get down to 30 minutes. But I want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, if that's something you celebrate, or even if you're just getting together with some friends. I'm getting together with some family and some friends, and I actually have to go make a pie. Even though it's late, I still want to make this pie because this is something I have to refrigerate overnight. So I'm going to get to making my pie for Thanksgiving. Um, like I always say, love yourself. You're unstoppable. Nobody can stop you but you. Um, and don't ever dim your light for anyone. Don't lower your standards. Don't dim your light. Love yourself.